This workshop is designed to inform you about the most effective job search strategies for securing internships and full-time positions in both industry and nonprofit organizations. I will begin by briefly explaining the career services that we have for PhDs. I will then explain the differences and similarities between industry and nonprofit positions. Then I will show you the three main parts of an effective job search, and I'll conclude with some suggestions for next steps. The first thing I want everyone to know is that there is a network of career services offices. Depending on which college or school your doctoral program or your postdoc program is located, you would access the services in one or more of these 4 career centers. If you are in engineering, the School of Business, or the School of Public Policy, we recommend you begin by getting to know the services and staff in the career centers embedded in your school or college. Visit their websites to learn more about them and their career portals, Careers for Engineers, Hire Smith, and UMD Policy Jobs. If you are a student or postdoc in any other college or school, you have access to the career services through the University Career Center and the President's Promise. That website is careers.umd.edu. Here you have access to your Careers for Terps account, called C4T, using the link in the upper left-hand corner of the home page. Through your primary career portal and C4T, you can register for events, see job postings, and other online resources such as Interview Stream, where you can practice for an upcoming interview that you may have. All students are able to schedule an individual career advising appointment with Dr. Susan Martin, the Program Director for PhD Career Development, through C4T. How do you find more information about services for doc students and postdocs? The professional and career development information is located on the grad school website. There is a Go link, go.umd.edu/PhD career info. On this website, you can find a link to all of our workshops, the services that we provide, tools and resources for you, previous recordings, and more. I've also provided Susan's email address, along with mine, should you like to contact us at any point about this workshop or the career and professional development services that our office offers. Our contact information is also listed on this website. So what is an industry job? It is a rather broad category, but for those of us in academia, it is often used to describe all non-academic jobs. In reality, the labor market is not a dichotomy. PhDs work in many different industries. Similar types of positions exist in multiple industries, and job titles will vary by industry. For example, higher education, manufacturing, biotech and pharmaceuticals, and consulting are all industries. PhDs are data scientists in all of these industries. The same is true for the jobs and career paths related to communication and policy. This type of work is also done in different industries. One can be a policy analyst within public health, government, or nonprofit organizations. Every industry has its own vocabulary, and most PhDs have not learned the language of different industries or careers. When explaining your skills and past work experience on a job application, be sure to use the language that anyone, regardless of the industry, can understand. And this is where I want to highlight that as PhDs and postdocs, we have so many transferable skills, and companies value this. So this may be the first time that you're ever considering a job outside of academia, and I want to encourage you to think about the value of the skills that you're developing during your PhD. And definitely make an appointment with Dr. Susan Martin or your respective career center to talk about your skills. What are nonprofit jobs? Nonprofit organizations, or NPOs, are not driven by profit, but by dedication to a given cause that is the target of all income beyond what it takes to run its organization. Nonprofit organizations are often used for trusts, cooperatives, advocacy, charity, environmental, and religious groups. Many, but not all, NPOs have paid staff and management positions, and almost all use volunteers. NGOs, or non-governmental organizations, are similar and exist in all parts of the world. They are typically not nonprofit, citizen-based groups that play a major role in international development, aid, and philanthropy. There are several myths about working in nonprofit organizations, one being that you have to be independently wealthy to be part of them. Idealist.com, amongst other websites, works to debunk these narratives. Idealist also has a rather in-depth guide for first-time job seekers for nonprofit careers. The DC area has many nonprofit organizations, so if you're interested in these types of positions, I recommend beginning with this Idealist guide. PhDs are employed in nonprofit leadership, research and advocacy, and training roles, for example. I want to point out that federal jobs are different from industry and nonprofit jobs. I haven't talked at all about the federal application process, but it is quite different from what I'm discussing here today. So if you'd like to learn more about this process, go to the grad school's YouTube channel to see past federal job search workshops that we have recorded and past sessions of the Rita B. Leahy Career Series that included employees in the federal government. I'd also recommend looking at Catherine Troutman's YouTube page. She is an expert on the federal jobs, and her channel is devoted to walking you through the government job search process. And finally, I would recommend looking at the websites and events calendar of the University Career Center and your primary career center for information related to the federal job search process and upcoming events related to federal employment. It may at first glance seem that these events are only for undergrads, but there is valuable information at these events that are applicable to both undergraduate and graduate students alike. Additionally, all Career Center events present an opportunity to increase your knowledge and expand your professional network. While industry and nonprofit jobs are different, the processes that I'm going to talk about today for effective job searches are applicable to both. The application process for a job is like a funnel. Oftentimes you put in an application for a job, and only a few of these actually result in you moving on to the next step of the screening process. The whole purpose of your application materials is to get you on to the next level. As reviewers look at your resume, they may only spend 30 seconds looking at it. They're either going to decide yes or no. There's also going to be something called applicant tracking software used by larger organizations that scans your submitted materials and applications that look for certain information. Poorly written materials and incomplete applications are quickly screened out. If you get to the next level, interviews typically could be a screening phone interview, or you may be asked to submit a video interview of a set of questions. After this interview, you may get invited for an on-site interview. So there may be 100 to 300 applicants, and then there might be 20 screening interviews. And from there might be 3 to 5 candidates that are brought on for an on-site interview. After an on-site or final round interviews, a hiring manager will rank their top candidates, and then they will start to do reference checks. Once they've done these reference checks, they or HR will extend a verbal offer. There may be some types of negotiations, but until a candidate has accepted the offer in writing, the search is typically not closed. This process can take 90 to 120 days, shorter or longer depending if there's some type of security check. Oftentimes, job seekers never hear back from the status of an application, and this is simply a reality. So I provided for you here 3 key categories of effective job search. I've color-coded this first section in red. The first section is something that you have to do before you can start your applications. You need to know the first type of position you're applying for and begin to compile a list of companies or organizations. Activate and expand your network. Networking and only submitting targeted applications are the 2 most effective job search strategies for PhDs. The second category in blue has to do with identifying openings and submitting high-quality applications. That involves polishing up your professional communication. It's going to be a very different style of communicating in emails and cover letters than some of the PhD academic writing that you've been doing. And this last category, the one in purple, has to do with the interviewing process and being able to communicate effectively. You need to show employers that you have the skills that they are looking for. If you're an international student, you need to be able to engage in a conversation about your work authorization. Or if you're a student with disabilities, you can decide if and when to disclose information about your disability and any necessary accommodations. This last part is about knowing how to negotiate an offer and appropriately accept or decline. You might hear people talk about the hidden job market, and this is really true for PhDs. You can find a position through job postings, of course, but most of the positions that PhDs find come through networking and this hidden job market. I want to speak briefly about this arrow on the right. Most students think about job searching in this downward motion as displayed on the pyramid, and they're going to apply for tons of jobs, and if they're in a high demand area, they're going to find a headhunter or a person who's going to do the work for them. Then they're going to look at websites at their professional organizations. Doctoral students typically don't want to spend a lot of time with these last three categories until they're unsuccessful with these top three categories. Some of you may waste a lot of time and become very dejected if your only job search strategy is to apply to postings on these large job boards. I want to point out that employers actually hire in this other direction if you look at the arrow on the left. They start at the bottom of the pyramid with their hiring process, while doctoral students typically see this as their last resort. What I encourage you to do is to begin your job search process in the bottom categories of the pyramid rather than the top. If a hiring manager has an opening, the first thing that they're going to do is ask if anyone on their team knows anyone who can fill that position. They trust you and they know that you're going to recommend good people to them. The employer will continue to use their network and word of mouth. The last thing that they want to do is put out a job posting. It's a lot of work to get a position posted by HR and to screen all of those resumes. Hiring managers prefer referrals from a current employee. Networking is by far the most effective job search strategy, even for those government positions for new graduates and contractual positions within federal agencies. Networking is also an important strategy for identifying internships, postdocs, and other part-time positions. So oftentimes jobs never make it to job boards, and if they are on job boards, sometimes they're already filled. Sometimes an organization prescribes that all vacancies have to be advertised externally, even if a hiring manager has already identified their preferred internal candidate. You want to stick with strategies that are going to be most effective. The most effective is professional networking. You can start building professional relationships by attending events where you can talk with alumni and employers and by doing informational interviews. Informational interviews are really information gathering conversations. My advice is to start now and not wait until you're putting in applications, because then all of a sudden you're a job seeker as opposed to someone who is seeking advice and information. It is really much more comfortable to request an informational interview as a student or a postdoc who is exploring career options. Another strategy is submitting targeted applications. It's a technique where you identify employers that you really want to work with in geographical regions where you're willing to relocate to, or maybe where you're already located, and you're actively watching the postings that they have. The strategy is to forge connections with organizations of interest. You do this by reading the company website, following it and some of its employees on LinkedIn, and becoming visible to them at employer events and through professional organizations. Additionally, you should also be conducting informational interviews to learn more about that organization and opportunities and make connections that hopefully will result in an internal referral or inside information about upcoming opportunities. The last strategy that I'm going to talk about is really underutilized, which is attending regional association and professional organization meetings. Many doctoral students are presenting at large national conferences, but many doc students don't attend the regional area meetings or don't participate in organizations where professionals in careers you are considering gather. So, for example, if you want to stay in the DC area and you are a chemist, it would be a good idea to attend regional chapter meetings in the DMV area. In addition, there may be another organization of professionals working in local pharmaceutical and biotech companies. You could meet people in this area and network with people who you may never have had the opportunity to get to know at the larger, more academically oriented conferences. These are the active ways to job search as opposed to the passive way to wait for openings or even look for jobs on these big meta job sites and then put in hundreds of applications without really ever hearing anything back. And I want to point out that this chart over to the right comes from the TERP guide. It identifies different targeted strategies for applications. The TERP guide is available on the Career Center's website. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about getting organized. If you're beginning your job search now, I have some advice, and some of this may seem so basic, but I can't emphasize more how important this is. Put some time in your calendar for your job search and set some smaller, achievable weekly goals. It's what's going to keep you motivated and on track. You can also set up search agents on Careers for TERPs, Careers for Engineers, Indeed, LinkedIn. USA Jobs, and so on to watch job postings for you. It can send you an email whenever a job is posted so that you save ones you're interested in. For example, if you save in USA Jobs to send you alerts anytime a certain agency posted a new job or an internship, you will get an alert sent to your email and you can apply immediately. Also, keep track of the people with whom you've contacted and have had informational interviews with. Set up a spreadsheet and keep notes of what you talked about in those conversations. This may seem like a lot, but when you keep track of those many conversations, you're able to keep track of who said what and what you learned. And when you send those follow-up emails and LinkedIn Connects and subsequent messages, you have a record and you're not mixing up information. When you're job searching, I suggest you spend half of your time researching and making contacts. What this means is that you're spending time online trying to identify additional employers and learning about these organizations. You will also do online and in-person relationship building. So not just email conversations, but that means making time in your schedule for 15 to 20 minute face-to-face online conversations. You can also use this time to review LinkedIn or Terrapins Connect profiles of alumni. These profiles provide valuable information about potential employees or employers. And you're also regularly looking at job boards to see the positions that have been posted. Then you spend the other half of your time preparing and sending tailored materials, preparing for interviews, and tracking and following up on applications if that's possible. The following up means checking in with someone in your network you may know to learn if the position has been filled. Following up is sometimes difficult to do, and you will have to accept that you may never know what happened with your application or your screening interview, but don't take it personally. So job postings can be found inside of Careers for Terps, Careers for Engineers, The Vault, and Going Global. Imagine PhD and other discipline specifics from job boards may actually be pulling in postings from Indeed and Idealist. Regional companies that are posting jobs in Maryland's Careers for Terps and Careers for Engineers may also be participating in our career fairs and panels hosted by the career centers. Checking these job postings and seeing which companies are posting in C4T and C4E, even if you're not interested in that particular job that you're looking for, is a strategy that you can use to expand your knowledge about potential employers. In reality, PhD level positions are more likely to be found through your networking and directly on company websites if that organization regularly hires PhDs. Another way to research is to use the alumni feature on LinkedIn and see which people in your program are employed and where they are employed. You can also look at the professional organization's website to which you belong. Look at their newsletters and their memberships list. I mentioned how important networking is, but you may also network with alumni from your department through your departmental talks and events. And we are also hosting events in the Professional and Career Development Office every year with different employers who you can learn about. And don't forget that as a PhD, you could also leverage the alumni networks of other institutions that you have attended for your master's and/or your bachelor's degree. So I have some suggestions for next steps. Some of you may not have used tools on your primary career center's website before, so that might be where you start right there. Some of you might need to draft some basic materials. Maybe you're maintaining your CV, but you've never written a resume before. I would encourage you to put some time in your schedule for the job search and career development. Remember, it's not about just putting in applications, but it's about talking with people. The application process is not about quantity, but about quality. And finally, I would encourage you to schedule an appointment with Dr. Susan Martin or a career advisor in your respective career center and on the grad school's website at go.umd.edu/PhD career info. Be sure to explore the career resources of your primary association. For example, MLA, AHA, and APA all have career and job search information on their websites and regularly host career-related webinars. Again, this is our contact information and our website link, along with our Twitter handle. And if you'd like to talk more about your application materials or the application process, you can make an appointment with Susan in C4T. And if you would like to discuss how this type of session might be done for members of a graduate student organization, please contact me directly. Thank you for taking the time to attend this session, and we look forward to supporting you through your career development and your job search process.